Front Lane introduces Impulse, the world's first collision alert system for the driver behind you when you have to brake hard. Impulse uses ultra-bright pulsing red LEDs to alert drivers behind you who might not be giving their full attention to the road. Using amazing accelerometer technology and a battery that will last for years, Impulse installs in minutes, fits nearly any vehicle, and never requires additional wiring. Drivers react 50% faster, helping to protect you and your passengers. Learn more by visiting www.frontlane.com/impulse. That's www.frontlane.com/impulse. Approved by all 50 states. Impulse by Front Lane.
I'm Shelley Johnson with Kathy Tuccaro. You can hear us Tuesdays on TNCRadio.live at 8 p.m. Eastern on Women Road Warriors. And don't miss Steve Summers' Overnight Drive right here on TNCRadio.live, weeknights midnight to 5 a.m. Eastern. Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Welcome back in TNC Radio.live. It's Wednesday night. We're live for Taillights with the Baums. Larry and Angie Baum. How you doing tonight, Angie?
We're doing awesome. How are you?
Fantastic.
I got my dog sitting here honking our horn. Oh, they're trying to notify all the truckers that we're here. So sorry, guys. Welcome to Taillights with the Baums. I'm your host, Angie. Larry is inside the truck stop right now, but he'll be back in a few minutes. And tonight we're talking with Mark Hewitt, and he runs a great place that's not too far from where I live called the Road Angel Trucker Center. And so I figure, Mark, you could just come in and kind of introduce yourself and then tell us a little bit about the Road Angel Trucker Center.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Angie, for having me on. I'm Pastor Mark. I drove 15 years. I dispatched. I worked for a broker. I built a terminal, ran a terminal. So I've done just enough in the trucking industry to be dangerous, is what I say. But the Association of Christian Truckers is a ministry to truck drivers, and it started way back in about 1979. They were incorporated. And we have a 34-acre facility right at exit 68 in Brownstown, Illinois, and where we can park 50 trucks. It's well lit. We have a building where we have showers, laundry, we have meals, we have snacks, coffee, and that building's open 24 hours a day. You can always get to the snacks, the laundry, and the showers. And but from 6 a.m. till midnight, we actually have a live person there. And my wife Deb is over there now working. So we greet the drivers as they come in, and we say, "Hey, how can we help you? What can we do for you?" And all of our services are free. So we just want to create an oasis for these drivers because, as I said, we understand what it's like. And we want them to have a place where they can be at home, away from home. And that's just the thumbnail sketch of it. I mean, there's a lot more to it. I don't know if you want me to go into the history of ACT or where you want to go with that.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So people can understand how it came about. That would be great.
Okay, I'll give you the shortest version I can. A man named Jim Keyes came from Canada in the 50s. And he came to the United States to minister to the American trucker. And he is actually known as the father of trucking ministry. He started a ministry called Transport for Christ, which many of you guys are familiar with. Angie, I'm sure you've seen their trailers around.
Yes.
And he started that ministry, but it's interesting how he started out. The first thing he did here was the scales used to have just a dirt pull-off back then, and he would set in the pull-off on a stool with a little sign that said chaplain on duty. And he said he talked to a lot of truck drivers, and then Transport for Christ took off, and it became a worldwide ministry. with some like 80 some chapels in the United States and chapels in Africa and other countries overseas. And in around 1978 or something, Jim and Transport for Christ parted ways. He said it was one of the hardest things he ever did, but the Lord told him to give it up, so he did. Then about a year later, a bunch of his supporters got him together with him and said, "Hey, Jim, you got to do what you do. You're a trucking minister." And so he decided to have a ministry called the Association of Christian Truckers. And he started out with 3 mobile chapels that Woody Clark, who owned 3 truck dealerships in Pendleton, Oregon, gave him 3 tractors, and they put together 3 furniture vans, and out they went, ministering in the truck stops for a couple weeks at a time and moving around. And that's where I met them. So I guess that's why this story is important. I met them in the truck stop, in an old 76 truck stop. That tells you how old I am. In 1985. And I went in there, and there was a mobile chapel in there, and I had never seen anything like that. And so that night I sang in the chapel, and the lady that ran the chapel followed me out the door, and she said, "When are you going to start your ministry?" And I said, "Well, I'm helping my pastor out at home, and I sing in church." And she said, "No, you have a ministry on the road. When are you going to start?" And I said, should have had a V8. I didn't think of that. So I got in my truck and I said, "Lord, when's my ministry going to start?" And that was the night that I said, "I'll go where you want me to go. I'll do what you want me to do, and I'll say what you want me to say." And from that day forward, there has been ministry every day. Now, how it ties into ACT is I went back to the headquarters in Brownstown, and it was just a pole barn then, just had been built. It was built to fix the mobile chapels. So what happened is Jim prayed for me there, and he pointed at me and said, "You need to be here." Well, we both thought that was for that time, but I couldn't do that. And here 37 years later, I'm here. Now, how it got to be what it is today is that the chaplains out on the mobile chapels, they would tell all the drivers about ACT and how they needed to go back to the headquarters and meet Jim Keys. Well, drivers started stopping in there. Well, one thing led to another, and they built a kitchen. And then they built, another part and another part. And now you've been there, Angie. If you come in there, you would know it's a pole barn.
Oh, no, it's an amazing center. You'd never know they started from a pole barn. That's for sure.
So now we've grown into what it is here. That's kind of how God does things. We are a Christian organization. We're called the Association of Christian Truckers. That word is very important. God, when I came back here in 2016, I had actually been here in 2008 for a year as well, but I come back in 2016 and God said, "I want you to concentrate on association." And so now we are associated with many ministries, Lonesome Road with Gary Rayburn, and Truck Stop Ministries. David Owen is the president of that, and we all working together to help truckers.
That's awesome. Yeah, we actually met, I think it's been almost 3 years ago. And I'd actually heard about you from a trucker friend of mine who said that he had found you. He was really tired one night and he was driving on the highway and just happened to see the road sign and pulled in. And he was telling me all about how he pulled in late at night. He was able to get a meal. He was able to get a shower. And it was actually on a Saturday night, so he was able to go to church service on Sunday. And he was telling me all about it. And so I actually came out and visited with you, and you gave me a tour of the center, and I got to have lunch, and it was amazing. And I just love that you guys do this all for the truckers. And it is a free service, but you do take donations to help out towards the cost.
Yep, absolutely. We get donations. The drivers donate, and we do have some outside people that donate. Ed Hart of Safeway Moving Systems is one of our big donors, and several people that help us with what we do. I mean, it does cost money to buy beans, but we believe that God will supply. because our main focus is how can we help that driver. When I train chaplains, I tell them, our goal is how can that driver leave our place better off than when he came in? So when he comes in, you drop whatever you're doing, you find out how you can help him.
Well, that's so awesome. I mean, I think the other thing is that, you have so many volunteers over the years that have helped out, and a lot of them, live there and stay there. And so not only are you meeting tons of, truckers on a daily basis, but then you have amazing people that volunteer their time to help out there as well.
We do. I'm kind of glad you brought that up because we're really needing some volunteers now. We're down to 4 people where usually it takes 6 to 7. So, it's not for everybody. I mean, you live there, you stay there. Our entertainment is going to Walmart, so.
To get supplies, right?
Yeah, but we love what we're doing, and of course, there's never a dull moment. I always say the Pawn Stars guy always says, in 25 years, I never know who's going to walk through that door. I said, buddy, you ought to be where I'm at.
Absolutely. We've been talking with Pastor Mark, and he was with the Road Angels Trucker Center, close to Effingham, Illinois, about 30 minutes from Effingham off the 70. We're going to take just a quick break, and we'll be back here in just a few minutes. You're listening to Taillights with the Baums.
This infoblog on tncradio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. 3 simple tips to improve your CSA score. There are millions of drivers on the road every day. That's why trucking companies must stay compliant with federal safety regulations. Staying compliant with federal safety regulations not only helps keep yourself and others on the road safe, but also helps improve your safety scores. A good CSA score is extremely important to the success of a trucking company. Drivers that have a good score have access to preferred loads and reduced insurance rates. Here's some tips on how to improve your CSA score. What is the CSA program? CSA, Compliance, Safety, Accountability, is a program of the FMCSA that holds truck drivers accountable for their role in safety. The main goal of the CSA program is to prevent accidents from happening on the road and to identify high-risk commercial motor carriers. Although the FMCSA runs the CSA program, they don't issue CSA scores. The FMCSA created an online safety measurement system that records data like roadside inspections and crash reports from the last 2 years. The data is updated monthly and assigned to your DOT number. The FMCSA then organizes the SMS data into 7 categories, often referred to as basics: behavior, analysis, and safety improvement. How to improve your CSA score? When it comes to CSA scores, the lower the scores, the better. Your CSA score determines whether or not you'll get a visit from the DOT. Over time, your CSA score can be improved by making safety a core focus of your trucking company. Prioritize pre-trip inspections. A large percentage of CSA violations are truck-related. This could all be prevented with a pre-trip inspection. Pre-trip inspections are one of the most important things you need to do before any trip. A simple pre-trip inspection helps you get in tune with your truck before you drive. It lets you know if anything's wrong with the truck or needs to be fixed before hitting the road. Not only are you required by law to perform a pre-trip inspection, but it also keeps you and others safe while on the road. Check out our blog, 4 Reasons Why Pre-Trip Inspections Are Important for Truck Drivers. Be more cautious of who you hire. Hiring drivers with a good driving record is crucial if you want to have a good CSA score. Remember that CSA scores use your driver's crash records to calculate your score. So if you hire a driver with a bad driving history, you're taking on more of a risk. Challenge citations. You have at least 2 years to challenge a violation. If you challenge a violation and it gets dismissed, it'll be removed from your company's CSA score. The Truckers Network has teamed up with CDL Consultants and CDL 360 to provide a full spectrum of safety, compliance, and audit services to our members. CDL Consultants has successfully reduced or dismissed over 35,000 violations and tickets. They've worked with tens of thousands of drivers and companies, including many top 100 carriers. If you need to fight a violation, search for a CDL consultant on the Truckers Network webpage at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. You're listening to TNCRadio.live. Remember to tune in to the Truckers Network radio show with Shelley Johnson weekdays at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Truckers Life Radio from TFC Global with your host, Ron Frazier, every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. On the show, Ron interviews guests to help inform professional drivers just like you about the importance of things like human trafficking to sex addiction to how to overcome the impossible odds on the way to success. Every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome back in TNC Radio.live. This is Taillights with the Baums. Here's Angie and Larry.
Welcome back, everybody. I am Angie.
And I'm back. I'm still Larry.
He was parking our truck. So we've been talking with Pastor Mark, and Pastor Mark is with Road Angels Tractor Center. I can't speak tonight. So we were talking a little bit before the break about how, this place couldn't be possible without having volunteers to help you guys, run this and work your center. So can you tell us a little bit about the volunteers that you've had over the years?
Yeah, we've had a variety of volunteers, and I got to say good or bad, not bad, but if you're not really dedicated to taking care of truck drivers and your heart isn't in that, then you're really just there for a job, and that doesn't really work out so well. But the volunteers that we have now, they understand what the mission is and why it's so important. Drivers are so frustrated. They go through so much, and they just really need that, knowing that when they pull in there, they know that it's a trucking center. It's for trucks. Not that we don't let four-wheelers come in, they can, but it's basically for truck drivers, and it's like they come in and say, okay, I can feel comfortable here. They speak my language, and I'll get into that in a minute, because truckers are their own nation. But yeah, so the volunteers, we don't push them hard, and we teach them how to talk to people, and we're not pushing the gospel on people. We're just bringing, I have a message I call 10 seconds, 10 minutes, 10 hours, 10 days, 10 months, 10 years. They're all relationships. So we teach them how to have that 10-second relationship. How you doing? And so on and so forth. So yeah, we've had some great volunteers. We just had one of our volunteers, Lester Smith, had been with us for quite a while, and he actually went to work with Truck Stop Ministries down in Shreveport, Louisiana. So we have them for a while, a lot of times, and then they leave, and we wish everybody well, and we just keep looking for more. But I'm really looking for people who have a heart for God and a heart for truckers.
Well, I tell you, one of the things that absolutely surprised me is, first of all, the parking lot there is huge. It's so well lit, very well maintained. So how many trucks can you get in there? About 50?
We can get 50 in if they all park right.
Yes, that's the thing. They all park right. Yeah, so I've actually been there once in my car and once in my truck, so I've been there in both.
And you mentioned the parking lot's well maintained. Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah,
we hardly ever have to pick anything up. The drivers do it. I had one day I was sitting in there and these drivers came in, these two guys, and they go, "Hey, did you know that guy that just left?" And I said, "Yeah." They said, "He's kind of different, isn't he?" I said, "A little bit, yeah." He said, "Well, he threw his garbage out of his truck, and then he backed over it as he left." And I said, "Okay, well, I'll get a hold of Eric, and we'll just get out there and clean that up." They go, "No need. We already put it in the garbage."
That's amazing. And see, that's the way it should be, especially when you're offering a service like that. and that's one of the things. I mean, I've been to your place a few times, and the other thing that I was really impressed with is like as soon as you walk through the front doors there's like a little vestibule area, and you have in there tons of audiobooks and Bibles and literature and tapes that the truckers can take with them so that they can have this on the road with them, which I think is awesome.
Oh yeah, we like I said, we partner with a lot of ministries, and we have a lot of different CDs and things for drivers, and Bibles and Spanish Bibles, and we try to. I mean, we only have so much room, so every week somebody calls me and says, "Hey, can I send you some of these? They're really cool." And I go, "Well, that might be, but I don't have any room to put them." So yeah. Which is great, and we get almost all our materials free. John Knoll with Good News Distribution has been around for quite a while, and he's a really good friend of mine. And they just bring us Bibles, whatever we need. We just call him up, and he arranges for a truck driver to bring them over to us. So it's pretty cool.
That is cool, and I love how. I mean, since the first time that I've been there up until today, I've seen so many changes that have happened. The parking lot's gotten bigger and brighter. You've got a new sign up on the highway now that's more visible and you can see it better. And, I just love because like as soon as you walk in, you're greeted by somebody as soon as you walk in. But the whole atmosphere just feels very home-like. And like, I mean, as a truck driver, when I was walking in there, I just felt like, like the weight of the world just kind of comes off your shoulders. Like you just walked into family, which I love.
Yeah, well, we really pray a lot about, excuse me, about having there being a spirit there that when people come through the driveway, they feel it. And actually, we're expanding that now to where when people drive by, they feel it, because there's 12,000 drivers a day drive by our place. And we should have more trucks in there than we do.
Absolutely. So I wanted to make sure you mentioned the website so that people know where they can find more information about the Road Angels Truck Center as well.
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand there's two different entities. They are the same, but the Association of Christian Truckers is the overall incorporation, ministry. The Road Angel Truckers Center is the building where people come and the place where they come. And so our website is roadangeltruckerscenter.com. roadangeltruckerscenter.com. And you can go there for just about everything. You can donate there. You can message us there. You can, talk about volunteering. We just have a lot of stuff on there and a lot of videos and things that you can enjoy. And we appreciate everybody coming to the website. And then our Facebook page is ACT Road Angel. And so we keep those things going. And it sometimes, it's like I spent a good portion of the morning today posting things on Facebook and doing different things. It takes time to do all that media stuff, as you probably well know.
Yes. I was going to say I say on Sundays, you do a lot of live streaming on there too, so that, the truckers can, if they, weren't able to get to church or stop somewhere, they can also catch your ministry on Sundays too.
Yeah, we live stream on YouTube now because it's just a better platform for it. We start at 10 a.m. Central Time, and I do the first hour. I always say, like, I'm kind of like Sunday school, but I preach for the first hour. And then we switched to Bradenton, Florida. We have a connection with Christian Retreat down there, the family church. The president of our board, Pastor Phil Durstein, is the pastor of that church. And they have really good praise and worship, and he's a good preacher. And, it's kind of like we don't have enough people to get a praise and worship group together or anything. And it's kind of like I felt the Lord was telling me, why are you trying to do that? I said, well, because we're supposed to have praise and worship. He said, why don't you leave it to people that already know what they're doing? So, okay. so we started bringing theirs in. Of course, I sing, and I've led praise and worship a long time, but there's nothing like having a really nice band and, good spirit-led people singing and praising the Lord. So we go to their service next. So we have two services, really. back to back, and it's really powerful. I don't ever know what I'm going to preach usually till about an hour before. And
I was going to ask you that.
Well, the very first sermon I preached, I remember it was back in, I think it was 1979. And I wrote it out on a legal pad and I read it. So, and now it's kind of like God won't even give it to me till an hour before, because that way I can't mess it up, So.
Okay, that's funny.
And it always turns out that whatever, and I don't look to see what Pastor Phil's preaching about, and every time it dovetails right into his message. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, we believe in letting God do what He wants to do.
Oh, well, we're going to take another break here in just a minute, but I just want to remind everybody that if you are a trucker going through Illinois on the 70, you can stop at Truckers Road Angel and Road Angels Truck Center. You can stop there. You can get a meal. They serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They have snacks there, coffee. If you need to sit down and talk with somebody, maybe you're having a bad day, there's people there to do that with you. If you would like somebody to pray with you, you could do your laundry there, get a shower, and it's all donation based. If you can't afford anything, you don't have to give anything, but they do, run this on donations. So everything is very helpful. And this is a great time of year to give to a great organization. So we're going to be back in just a few minutes talking a little bit more with Pastor Mark. You're listening to Taillights with the Baums.
Be sure to listen to Building Strong Minds with Dr. Chris, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, right here on tncradio.live.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christopher Cortman, and now for the Mental Health Minute. Are you a control freak? I asked you that in the first part. And I also explained how control is not only a good thing, but it's necessary if you're going to live a happy and successful life. So when is control a bad thing? Very simply put, control is bad when you attempt to control other people. Control is bad when you attempt to control things that don't belong to you. The weather, the traffic, the stock market, and other people. You're not called a control freak just because you keep your closet in order. You're called a control freak because you try to keep somebody else's life in order. Think about it. You're out of bounds when you're trying to get people to vote like you do, or to believe like you do, or just to live the life that you want them to live. Unless they're your children and you need to teach them important things, try not to control the lives of other people. Instead, look in the mirror and do a good job controlling your own life. In this next video, we're going to talk about why do people become control freaks and what do they get out of it.
I'm Ron Samuels. We put it in reverse gear so you can enjoy the history of popular music and hear the soundtrack of life Wednesdays at 8 Eastern and 7 Central, right after the train station on tncradio.live.
For the latest in traffic, weather, and information, catch the Morning Grind weekdays right here on tncradio.live. Welcome back in tncradio.live. It's Wednesday night. We're live with the Baums, and this is Taillights.
Welcome back, everybody. We've been talking with Pastor Mark. And so, Pastor Mark, I'm sure that, you see on average, anywhere from 20 to 50 truck drivers a day. And I'm sure that you've had some pretty interesting stories over the years. Is there any particular stories that kind of stand out to you?
Well, there's so many, it's hard to pick one. I think I wrote a few to you. The one happened that was really unusual that I like to talk about is there was a Native American. And the reason I like to talk about this is because there were some drivers that were really treating him bad. He was hauling campers, and in the rest area, these guys kind of started bugging him about being Native American And he said, I did really good because I didn't get in a fight this time. He said. Anyway, but then he gets back on the road, and these guys start harassing him. They can pull up beside him, and they're throwing trash at him out of their truck and everything else. So he got off at exit 68 because he had to stop. And, of course, God had this all arranged. So he comes in, and really nice guy, and I'm talking to him, and I said, do you know the Lord? And he said, well, yes, I do. He said, I had that experience and I got baptized and all this stuff, but he didn't seem to know anything about the Bible. And he said, that's my frustration. He says, I need to know more about the Bible. I said, well, we got lots of Bibles here. We'll give you one, and he kind of got shied away. I didn't understand, but then he finally broke down and said, I can't read. And I said, oh, I see. So I spent about a little over an hour explaining to him the basic things in the Bible, and he could have went on for a long time, because every time I would say something, he would go, wow, that's just so awesome. I'd never experienced anything like that before. You'd explain to him, any kind of principle in the Bible, and he would go, wow. It was so cool. So I got him out of there. I didn't have any audio Bibles. I wish I did, but I showed him how to get one and how to get online and get stuff. And I said, you can learn everything you need to learn here. You don't have to read to do it. So that was and that's what I mean. You don't know what experience you're going to have. One night on New Year's Eve, I was home because I had some issues with my rear exit, and and I didn't want to go over to the center because I didn't want any drivers. I remember when I drove when I had that issue, and I wasn't going to do it. So I'm sitting over here, and they called me up, and they said, "Hey, Mark, you got to come over here. This guy acts like he's got a demon in him." And I said, "Well, I'm not coming over there." I said, "Oh, wait a minute, aren't you guys Christians?" I said, "Why don't you just pray for him?" So they got together and they prayed for him, and he calmed down. And one of the drivers that was there, my friend Stephen, who is just a wonderful man, and one of I call him my mighty man of God, and they prayed for him. And so he got talking to the guy, and Stephen gave him his number and said, well, just call me. He said, I'll be there, talk to you and all that. Well, the guy didn't call. It was just a few days. But then he called Stephen, and right there on that phone call, he gave his heart to the Lord, and he is just a treasure. And, all from that meeting, and so, and these things happen a lot. When Lester was there, a driver came in and said, I had to turn in here. I don't know why. I didn't even know there was anything here. He said, but something told me to get off this exit. So he got off, came in and said, I'm going to kill myself. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to do it.
Oh my goodness.
Whether I'm going to hit an abutment or, what I'm going to do. And so Gene talked to him and led him to the Lord, and I tell you, just like a whole different person.
Well, and that's one of the things we talk about a lot on TNC radio here is, with our profession, and because you were a trucker for a long time too, depression is one of those things. It's a real thing, and it really sets in, especially when you're out here and you're alone and you're on the road and, you're not with your family and friends. And so, when I was reading that, it really hit home. I'm like, I'm sure that there is quite a few truckers that have walked into your center, and you may or may not know it, that they probably are just so depressed and at that point, and you or one of your volunteers just sitting down and just, talking with them just for those few minutes and making them feel human and having that interaction. I bet you there's a lot of times you guys don't know what an impact you make on those drivers.
Yeah, that's so true. There's a lot of times, I try to pray with every one of them. Usually I'll say, hey, can I pray with you? And I'll take their hand. And I believe, that the Bible says that those that believe will lay hands on the sick and they shall recover. So I'm not going to get into all that doctrine, but what I'm saying is when I pray for somebody, I believe something's going to happen. So I have had multiple drivers come back and say, when you prayed for me, you said this, that, and that. And, and I had no idea what that meant. but they said that struck me and that changed my life and all this kind of stuff. Like you said, you have no idea. And I tell our chaplains, we're here to deliver whatever nugget they need. It might be just to encourage them, just to say, hey, it's okay. It's not as bad as you think. You're doing okay. It's going to iron out. Here's our number. Call us if you need us. We're on your side. Let's pray with you. And we don't talk about the Bible much or anything. Other times we get Christians. I got a couple Christian boys. Boy, I tell you one thing: when they come in there, you better have your Bible open because they're ready to go. And so, yeah, it's very rewarding in the fact that and it's not like you get bored. I tell you that. And
that's the nice thing is you get to see. I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of truckers that are repeat visitors that come back because they love the place, but you get to see so many new faces every day. So I'm sure it's got to be really fun and interesting at times.
We have a really good mix. We have the FedEx drivers that come in and they switch out on our yard, and they give us a donation for that. But that's 32 drivers a day that come in, and that's kind of our local congregation, And then we have people that stop every week, some every couple days, some every 3 years, like you.
Yes. I'll say the last time I stopped and you weren't there, you were sick. But I do have to tell you, the very first time that I was ever there, I stayed there for a couple hours with you guys, and it was on a Sunday. And Deb, your wife, is very crafty like me, so that's how we really got along. But she makes guardian angels that she gives to truck drivers, and I actually have mine on my truck.
That's a good story because she started making those so she could give them out to, she makes these angels out of paper clips, and then she puts them in a little plastic bag with a little card that has a little scripture on them. And she would go in the grocery store and she would see somebody that looked like they're a little bit down or something. And she'd go, here, I want to give you an angel. And they would just break down crying and say, oh, I need this so much. I was thinking about angels, or my daughter's name is Angel. I mean, just all kinds of reactions. So I said, hey, I think I'll take them to the truck show with me. So we started taking them to the truck shows. And one year we gave away 1,200 angels at the Mid-American Truck Show. So, but people, when you give somebody something for free, that means you're giving them out of yourself, and you're giving of yourself. And it really touches people because, nobody gives anything away anymore, And
Absolutely.
So you're saying to them, I care about you. And that's what our whole thing, when you start talking to somebody, you talk to them, and then you start talking to them about what's going on with them, so that you let them know that you really do care about them, and then that opens the door to go further if that's what's needed.
Absolutely. And the fact that, she makes these, and she wound up giving me a whole handful, which was great because I have one in my truck, and then I wound up passing them on to some of my trucker friends as well too. And I love that she, it's handmade, it's created by her. She's got a little card that goes into each one of them, and it's so thoughtful. And you're exactly right. Sometimes, you just get those things when you really need it at that moment,
Yeah, it's fun at the truck show because we lay them out on the table, and we'll say, "Hey, young lady, did you get your angel today?" And they'll come over. Well, of course, who comes with them? Their truck driver husband. And I get to say, "Have you been on I-70 up there by accident?" So it's fishing, but it touches them too. So that's the big thing.
Absolutely. I want you to tell everybody again where they can find you on Facebook and your website so they can get more information, especially if they'd like to make a donation, since we're getting close to the end of the year, and I know everybody starts making their tax donations at the end of the year. It'd be great to help out your organization.
Yep. We have on our website, there's a donate button. Our website is roadangeltruckerscenter.com. That's roadangeltruckerscenter.com. I couldn't have thought of a longer name, could I? But and there's a donation button on there, and you can go on there and donate. We also have Cash App available on there, and so we're working on different ways to give, but donations are really crucial. to be in the business side of things, it takes a lot of money to do what we do, and you would be surprised. So, yes, we want donations, but we only want you to donate if you feel like God's touching your heart, and He wants you to, because that's the only ones that are good.
Absolutely. We're going to take just a small break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. We're talking here with Pastor Mark, and you are listening to Taillights with the Baums. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Every 9 minutes, another commercial vehicle is rear-ended by a driver failing to control their speed. And guess who gets the blame? When you have to brake quickly, Tailbone illuminates a series of bright LED lights that allow the driver behind you to react up to 50% faster. Using amazing accelerometer technology and a battery that will last for years, Tailbone meets the standards set by the NHTSA and the FMCSA. Learn more by visiting www.frontlane.com/tailbone. That's www.frontlane.com/tailbone. Approved in all 50 states, it's Tailbone by Frontlane.
This info blog on tncradio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. 4 things truck drivers need to know about motor truck cargo insurance. Motor truck cargo legal liability insurance, also referred to as cargo insurance, covers the loss or damage to the freight you're hauling. When hauling cargo, there's always a risk that it could be damaged or stolen. While there are no legal requirements to have cargo insurance, it is highly recommended to better protect yourself and the goods you're hauling. What is cargo insurance? Cargo insurance protects you from financial loss if the freight you're hauling gets damaged or lost. In the event of an accident, cargo insurance pays for the amount you're insured for only if the event is covered. Cargo damage resulting from collision, accidents, fire, and spoilage are examples of covered events in most cargo policies. Benefits of cargo insurance. When hauling cargo, someone's paying you to safely deliver someone's assets from point A to point B. The main benefit of motor truck cargo insurance is that you reduce financial loss if the cargo you're hauling gets damaged. Also, purchasing cargo insurance gives you a peace of mind knowing that you're covered if your cargo gets damaged. How is cargo premium determined? The motor truck cargo rate depends on the type of cargo you're hauling. The classifications include dry van freight, flatbed freight, refrigerated freight or reefer, autos, household goods mover, and hazmat. As there are many different cargo classifications for a motor carrier, discuss with your agent the type of freight you intend on hauling. Insurance carriers generally classify motor carriers with the highest commodities hauled. So even if you only intend to haul autos 5% of the time and 95% of the time flatbed freight, your premium will be based on an auto hauler. This is why it's so important to talk with your agent about everything you'll be hauling. This ensures that the policy is written the correct way and excludes nothing that you intend to haul. Nobody wants to be stuck with a cargo claim commodity that's not covered under their policy. Please note that the coverages, limits, and explanations of coverages mentioned here can differ with every motor truck cargo policy depending on the type of cargo hauled and carrier requirements. Please discuss what is included and what can be added on or endorsed to your policy or quote with your current agent. What limits are you required to carry? There are many factors that determine the cargo limit a motor carrier should carry. Unlike commercial auto liability, generally the shipper who owns the freight will provide you with a minimum limit required to haul a load for them, not the federal government. The standard limit of cargo insurance for general freight is $100,000, but this limit can differ. For example, if a carrier is an auto hauler, his cargo limit could be anywhere from $150,000 to $1 million depending on the number of autos hauled and the auto's conditions. This info blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Catch Mind Your Trucking Business Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern with James Rogers, Jamie Irvine, and Tom Kelly. They provide expert advice about starting, operating, and growing a professional trucking business. It's Mind Your Trucking Business on tncradio.live.
Trucking Moves America Forward, or TMAF, is boosting the image of the industry by telling the story of trucking, and your story can be part of it. Upload a photo. Tell us what you love about trucking, or send us a story about a good deed or charitable act in trucking. Be sure to follow us on social media and contact us through truckingmovesamerica.com. That's truckingmovesamerica.com.
Welcome back in TNC Radio.live. This is Taillights with Larry and Angie Baum.
Welcome back, everybody. And we want to remind you, just stay tuned after the show. We're going to have Clutch Time Sports coming up. And tonight they have a special guest. Tom's going to be on the show with Josh tonight. So it should be really interesting, especially if you're a big sports fan. We've been talking with Pastor Mark from Road Angels Trucker Center. And one of the stories that you had sent me, which I thought was really interesting, is how one of your volunteers actually, who had stayed with you for a while, went on to become a truck driver. You want to tell everybody a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite little stories. There was a guy who was living in his car. Now, he was working, he had a job, but he didn't have a place to stay. And he said the Lord told him to come out to the Road Angel. And he said, why would I go out there? I'm not a truck driver. I don't know anything about trucks. But he came out there, and he asked if he could take a shower. He said he was going to sleep in his car. But, well, I wasn't the director back then. There was another man, Doc Hinman, and Doc told him after a little bit, he invited him to come in. We have some rooms upstairs, but we reserve them for truckers when they're broke down or something like that. I mean, we've went through the whole having a homeless person stay with you, and that has never worked out very well. But Mike came, and so Doc invited him, and we always do a background check on everybody and all that. And so he ended up becoming a volunteer, and he was still working, and he paid for his room. And he ended up, after about 2 years of volunteering there, he decided he was going to go to truck driving school. So he goes to truck driving school, he gets out, and he started driving for RBX, and he's out on the road now. He loves it. So we birthed a truck driver at ACT.
That is so awesome. That is so cool. I could totally see that, being around all the truckers and seeing their lifestyles and being able to talk with them. You could see where it could definitely pique somebody's interest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was great. And, I wanted to touch on one thing. One thing about, and this will help people, the one thing about truckers is that they are their own nation. I've had 80 hours of college, just enough to be dangerous, and in psychology, sociology, and anthropology. And what I understand is that truckers have their own language, they have their own customs, they have their own social group, they have their own history. They have everything that a nation has. And when you go to talk to somebody in another country, you would have to learn their language. And when we've had a couple volunteers come, and they knew the Bible and they knew a lot of things, but they could not relate to the drivers because they didn't speak their language and they weren't willing to learn it. And I had one guy say to me, he said, well, I just want to tell them about Jesus. I don't care about them trucks and all that stuff, I said, well, good luck with that. He says, what do you mean? I said, they're not going to trust you until you can speak their language and until they know you care about them. I said, they trust me because I was a driver, and they hear the language right away, and they know that that's the deal. I said, you're going to have to listen enough to learn what's going on and then become part of that conversation. Otherwise, you'll never get through. And they both left, both different times that happened, because they just couldn't really relate to it. And then bikers are the same way. I went to Sturgis 8 years in a row and went to bikers, and I thought it would be the same as truckers, but it wasn't. It was different. They were a different nation, And so
absolutely.
Those are important when you're witnessing to people and talking to people. You have to understand what nation they're in.
I like that.
Well, and that's one of the things that I love about you is that not only you're a pastor, but you also can relate to the truckers because you used to be a trucker. So it's kind of nice having both of those worlds in one thing. But I did want to tell everybody, we've only got a few minutes left. that Road Angels Trucker Center is located at 1366 US Highway 40 in Brownstown, Illinois. This is off of Highway 70, about a half hour from Effingham, Illinois. So if you ever get a chance, I'm telling you, you need to stop there. They have free parking there. They have laundry facilities, shower facilities, a TV lounge, snacks. They have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They have Bible studies on Thursday nights, a worship service Sunday at 10 a.m. Central Time, Wi-Fi access, lots of free literature for you to walk away with and CDs, and just a great resource for anybody. And the website is roadangeltruckercenter.com. So please, if you guys are looking for a place to donate to, I highly recommend this. Help Pastor Mark and everybody there be able to provide more for the truckers over the next year.
And they can mail a check to that address, so 1366 US Highway 40, Brownstown, Illinois 62418, and they can donate that way as well.
Awesome. That's great. I want to thank you so much for being with us, Pastor Mark. We're actually going to be home hopefully next week for Christmas, and I'd love to come out and see you again. It's been a while. But I just want to thank you so much for being with us tonight. When I first walked into your place, I don't know, it just touched me, and I've been back there a few times, and I told you next time I'll bring my husband because he hasn't been there yet.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I hope you get out there soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pastor Mark. Please don't forget to stop by and visit Road Angel. It's roadangeltruckercenter.com, and is located at 1366 US Highway 40 in Brownstown, Illinois 62418. Don't forget, you can give them a donation to help them out with all the good work they're doing for the truck drivers. And don't forget to join us back here. Actually, we're taking a break for 2 weeks. I apologize. And we'll be back again, I believe it's January 4th. With Taillights with the Baums. So you guys all have a great holiday season, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.
Merry Christmas.
I got one thing to say. Roll on with Jesus.
All right.
Absolutely. Thank you.